Hello YouTube, this is Soundwave913 coming back at it again with a brand new video, and I have returned, kinda, depending on the upload schedule of this video, because if you saw my last video, I was taking a break from YouTube, but probably only like 10 of you watched that video. I'm not surprised. But for my return to reviewing / posting stuff on this website, I decided to take a look at a figure that is somewhat new. Well, is new to a certain extent. We are reviewing Transformers Studio Series number 59, Shatter, or Jet Shatter, as many have nicknamed her. But before we get into the toy, let's talk packaging. So, here's the Studio Series Shatter box. I know, very redundant. There's some nice CG art of Shatter, and looks very accurate to the film. I hope the CGI models look accurate to the film. Number 59, typical Studio Series box bullshit. And we might as well talk about this. Yeah, these cardboard displays are kind of stupid. Okay, so let me just go on a small little rant here about these cardboard backdrops. They suck. I mean, it's a cool idea, having the Sector 7 area from the Bumblebee movie, represented in the background. That's a cool idea. I'm not gonna lie. But the problem is, does anyone use these? Comment down below if you actually use these in your displays. I'm legitimately curious. Me, they stay in a bag after I threw most of my studio boxes out of the way. Anyway, throwing that out of the way, and it lands over there. Let's talk Shatter herself. So, Shatter turns into a Harrier jet, and if you have a key eye, you will realize that she shares the exact same alt mode as Generation 1 aerial bot Slingshot, which just so happens to be a favorite of mine when it comes to G1 combiner dudes? Limbs? Whatever you want to call them. But Hasbro had to make modifications to, make it less accurate to the film because, they don't want to pay that license. I mean, they already had to with the car versions of Shatter and Dropkick to begin with. But enough about that figure. Let's actually talk about the good one. So, yeah, Shatter looks very nice in her jet mode with the primary color scheme being a matte black with a dark metallic gray with some red thrown around. I know, very interesting color scheme. I don't remember how accurate this is to the film since it's been a hot minute since I've seen that film. Since the Bumblebee movie, whatever you want to call it, film, Bumblebee movie, whatever we want to go with on the fly. Anyway, she looks nice, looks like the Harrier jet, and from certain angles looks very nice, from the top, straight on, from this way, looks nice. But then you get to the side, and, yeah, that's just, robot legs, and, it's even worse underneath. I mean, look at that. It's just thighs, feet, and hands. Fantastic. And, she's got the thrusters, which, if I'm correct, can actually... Yeah, they are compatible with the Siege Effect parts. And speaking of the Siege Effect parts, as I reassemble Blowpipe's little effect parts, her weapons actually are compatible with the Siege Effect parts. That seems like a tactic Hasbro's been using recently with, the good Cyberverse Deluxes and the recent stuff with Studio Series, making the Siege Effect parts compatible, which is awesome because this is one of the best features from the Siege line. So, getting that out of the way. Yeah, there's not much else to say. The canopy can't open, but the landing gear does fold up, which you're not going to be folding up the landing gear that often. I'll explain that in the transformation. But before we get into that, here's a comparison with Thrilling 30 Armada Starscream, a fellow red jet. And I will say that Shatter does feel better than this figure, but I think it's because this figure has this, missile launching gimmick. I gotta find that later. So, there you go. I will say that Shatter does have better undercarriage kibble than this figure does. So, enough of Armada, Starscream, and jet comparisons. Let's talk transformation. After, talking about the jet. Very typical review. So, you want to, take off the weapons, move them to the side. First thing you want to do is fold the back two tail fins up and then split the wings down like this, but you don't want to go too far out because you want to untab the front of the engines from the fuselage. I'm not too great with jets, I'm not gonna lie. And then try and fold this all out of the way like this. Now this centerpiece you want to flip out, then you want to fold the nose cone down but flip the very tip of the nose cone up. And what that's going to allow us to do is fold all of this back, and you'll see this very indent of a tab. You want to plug it into that hole like that. Now a lot of you will probably be thinking, oh, this is going to be very loose. Well, it will, but you'll see where we're going with this. Then you want to untab the back here and swing it down. That's going to become the legs. Untab them, then swivel them down, and then fold the feet out, which will also move the back of the jet up. Vice versa. Then you want to take the top half of what will become the robot, swing it around, then swing the arms around until you hear a click. Fold them down, swivel the arms, fold the head up, and now we deal with the backpack. I forgot to mention, you want to collapse the waist down like that, and also you want to have this landing gear, because the landing gear has a tab that plugs into one of these holes, particularly that one. And you want to get it all lined up because it gets everything locked into place. And finally, fold the jet kibble, tab it all in, then fold these pieces down, which were the side of the jet, and then actually don't do that. You want to fold the wings down like this, down to her side, if it wants to, because this piece decides to get caught up. That's always great. There we go. Then, after all of that, getting everything lined up to make it look somewhat presentable, we have a actually pretty decent robot mode for the most part, and we'll get to the big problem with this figure in a sec. But from the front, it looks like Shatter. It looks very accurate to the film. Doesn't have a bunch of red, but okay, a bunch of red in terms of the back, because the back is essentially the jet. Because let's talk about the big bullshit problem with this figure. That back kibble, man, it sucks. Can we just get that out there? Most female Transformers have awful back kibble, with the exception of a few. Like the Power of the Prime's Moonracer mold, the Siege Chromia mold, etc. And this figure, horrible back kibble. In fact, that is one thing I will give to the car dropkick, is the kibble's bad, but at least it's small. But yeah, this figure definitely, in my opinion, probably has the worst back kibble of any Studio Series figure. But to be fair, I haven't messed with many I haven't messed with every Studio Series figures. Before this, I would have said either Long Haul or World War II Bumblebee or Stinger had the worst back kibble. But yeah, what you gonna do? So yeah, what you gonna do? I mean, I get it, these are supposed to be on the shoulders, but again, what you gonna do? Now, let's talk articulation after, ranting about that. Head barely moves, but it's on a ball joint. That's disappointing. That's the farthest you can go. Then you can move. Head can move all the way up, a little bit down. Arms have a fair amount of articulation, but a lot of it will be caught up on the jet kibble. Swivel at the upper bicep, I believe. A soft ratchet at the elbow. Then no waist articulation other than the transformation joint, which you don't really want to unpeg because, all this will become undone. But you have a fair amount of leg articulation, can go all the way back, very far up, then a swivel above the knee, good knee bend, and a forward tilt. And surprisingly, Shatter actually stands pretty well, and that's because of, all the kibble on her legs. But, you have essentially 4 heels. You have that little the very end of the tail fin, that piece of the wing, and then her feet. So That's kind of cool. And let's talk weapons. So, Shatter comes with these unpainted gray weapons, which I have no clue if these are accurate to the film. I'm not gonna lie. The only weapon I remember from that film was Bumblebee's sword and the gun that made the humans go pop. That's about it. So, yeah, as seen before, siege effect part, but they plug nicely into her hands. And look at that. She can get into a variety of poses, although her head not moving that well is a real bummer. Alright, let's talk size comparisons. So here she is with the very much inferior car dropkick, which if you saw my top 19 of 19 video, you'll know this is my second least favorite figure I bought last year. Or third, I don't remember. It's been like, how many months now since I made that? 4 months. But enough of her. Let's talk dropkick. I only have helicopter dropkick, but I think they look well together. You know, these two are appropriate because they are the, you know, the jet and helicopter versions of the characters. The flying version. And here is Cliff Jumper from Earthrise. Oh, wait a minute. That's kind of an awkward comparison. That's great. So, in conclusion, Shatter's pretty good, you know. I think her transformation's fine. Her jet looks great to a certain degree. And the robot, besides all this bullshit on her back, actually, I mean, she does take up some shelf space, but, I mean, it isn't the most amount of shelf space that a figure takes up. I mean, have you seen some of the older Beast War figures? They take up a lot of shelf space. But, overall, if you can find Shatter for a good price and won't find her at all, I highly recommend her. So, this is Soundwave913 signing out with Studio Series Shatter. Have a good one, everybody.